Hello and welcome to today's webinar. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Susanne Richter-Wilz, and together with my colleague Dave Bennett, we will take us through a session today. For the next 45 minutes, we're going to look at the topic of secure AI for compliance-heavy industries. Now, those of you who know us and have joined us before, you know when we at ScaleHub talk about AI or compliance, we always talk about it in the context of document processing or document-heavy processes or industries. And we will do that today, and we will draw a lot on our experiences. But we want to share with you some thoughts around how secure is AI, the latest technology, current approaches, and what can you do to actually make it secure? So really three topics which we're covering: the potential benefits of latest approaches, the risk associated with that, then some of possible actions to take to actually minimize those risks. And we want to round it all up at the end with sharing an example with you of our own experience of a real life use case where some of the actions that we've taken to remedy some of the risks or to minimize some of the risks will be shared with you just as some thought sharing and hopefully to spark some discussion with you. As far as discussion is concerned, there is a chat option in every where you are, and some of our colleagues are online and will be answering questions, but we will also have a Q&A session at the end of the day. We may not be able to answer everything, whilst we can go fairly deep when it goes to AI. There may be topics that we will take offline, but be assured we'll get back to you. And we would also love to hear from you generally about you sharing your experiences. The session will also be recorded, so you will get a summary, a link to the session after this event, which means you can minimize, in a sense, your note-taking and don't have to worry about that so much. All that said and done, let's go into the topic and let's have a look at some of those AI-related promises, challenges, and benefits and risks that are out there. Now, if you, like me, and wherever I go, AI is everywhere. It seems to be everywhere nowadays. There's not a newscast, not a paper I read, a book I read even that where AI is not present, and it seems to be in many different areas of our life. And if you think about it, ChatGPT is only just about 2 years old. Seems like a lifetime on the one hand, seems like only yesterday on the other hand. But I think we all agree that moving with something like ChatGPT and tools like that and LLM-based systems away from the data scientists only being the ones that can handle and control and understand AI to actually being more a user-friendly kind of experience, it really has made changes to many parts of our life. And it's here to stay, and it's here to change and improve many more things. And certainly there is a hunger for it as well. I mean, ChatGPT, and everybody's drawing upon that example, but it is just so impressive. If you think about it, when it was launched, 100 million users in the first 3 months, and growing, and of course, use cases are growing as well, where it's being utilized. At the same time, where use cases are increasing, users are increasing, everybody's getting more comfortable with AI and the GenAI kind of tools, LLM-based approaches, the voices are getting louder as well about, is it safe? Should it be used? Is it something that can be used now? Should it stop? Is it compliant? And so on and so on. And we want to look at some of those aspects today and try to find a few answers at least, or raise a few thoughts about answering some of those potential concerns or potential real risks and how to maybe tackle them. Now, we're not going to go into technical detail today, but we're really looking at generally how the use of LLM-based technology or approaches is being approached today, and how secure can it be. So the topic of being secure starts already with the choice of technology. So if we look at it in simple terms and making it very high level, then you look at some public available or public open source based approaches, and then the more private or the commercial available approaches, which both hold some different kind of challenges that go with it. Now, public and open source. And if you think about ChatGPT, often people think about it, oh, it's free, and there's a lot of usage in there. And then, of course, the first challenge may come with it. Free often means that you use a product for free, you are the product, meaning you don't have any control where your data is going. Now, and many people therefore shy away of saying public approaches cannot be safe and cannot be utilized within an organization. But even public approaches, as soon as they become payable, become more secure. So you have options that your data is not retained so long, and you can have options that your data is not retained at all. So as soon as you put a dollar sign against a public kind of approach, you may find that you are already going to quite safe waters again as far as your data retention and data usage is concerned. On the other hand, when you use a private and commercial model, you would think that's all done and it's all, tick in the box and I pay for it. I'm having a sizable subscription, so it must be safe. And it's not necessarily so, because some of those approaches, say, for example, you may have an IDP system or that has an LLM-based approach below it, may use third party. And a third party may have some, again, different terms around the retention, the usage of data. So it's therefore becoming really muddy waters when you are looking at what is safe, where's my data going, where is it being retained, and just by looking at public and private or commercial, it's not necessarily the only way to look at. So there could be some hidden risks, but there are also some hidden potential in any of the approaches that are out there. That being said, there are the voices of people just using one or the other approaches and not thinking about it, and the instances of where that's going wrong are unfortunately appearing. So, I've got some here on the screen, like for example, at Samsung, we all learned that some workers just accidentally put some documents up there to do some of their work and didn't realize that the information is there to stay, and they leaked trade secrets. Other ones are just very paranoid and just stop it all together. There's lawsuits going on. This goes really down to any kind of level. We had an experience where I had a chat with somebody who in an organization, and they did some very interesting things to actually improve their accounting. So one of their workers actually uploaded just some invoices to find some data out, which that the technology they utilized was very, very good at doing so. However, their pricing ended up being in the public knowledge. So this is a kind of mistakes that can happen if people are not thinking about, taking the approaches they're taking serious and think about the consequences of it. So I think we will see a lot more of the privacy issues appearing in the news, but hopefully also equally as many good examples of where there really benefit is being created as it is. But as we know, news likes the things that we see on the screen here more the whoopsies than the hoorays, and then I think we will be seeing those, but we can also learn from that. And of course, there's a lot of government activities or generally activities on legislation happening all around the world to help organizations to really see what to give them a guidance, I guess, what to do. I mean, those regulations should be all about if they're done in the right way. So really looking at how it's being utilized, putting also some of demands on organizations actually are bringing the technology out, so ensuring that they're doing their homework, and also that some of the legislations are helping in a way that the utilization is being controlled. So as long as it's been done in the right way and it's actually being a guidance and a help, I think that's all a good thing. But it shows here with some of the numbers on the screen that there's a lot of uncertainty out there, that there are only a really small amount of organizations nowadays really looking at now deploying it in a commercial way, because they have concerns about privacy and ethical concerns. And next to that is also the area of exposing one's own intellectual property or making oneself attackable as far as the competition is concerned. I mean, these concerns are growing. These numbers actually seems to be going down in a sense of adoption of the technology rather than going up. And I think that's a lot can be done, though, to ensure that these risks can be minimized and can be tackled in some sensible way. Now, when we look at it as far as scale is concerned, we always look at, those organizations have a lot of documents. And we also think they should be concerned to some extent, and they should be wary, and they should think about how they approach things. Because documents will almost always contain some confidential information, some personal information as well. So they have requirements around where documents actually can reside, where documentation or the data inside documents can go, who should handle them, and how long they should be retained, and so on and so on. And so these are the kind of guys that should be looking at really worrying about their approaches. At the same time, if you look at recent studies, and I saw one only this morning, that the industries that are adopting GenAI or any kind of these approaches are the ones which have the most sensitive information. So the newsletter or the news I saw this morning talked about insurances, healthcare, financial sector as being the ones that have the most use cases, approaches the most. And I guess there can't be any, there are not many other more industries which have more sensitive information. So this is really the area where a lot of things need to be considered in order to ensure that the data is being kept secure. So, but, even if there's this worry there, and, these industries are still adapting it because they have a lot of documents, so why are they doing it? So where's the promise? I mean, this is not just a risk of it. So if you look at traditional IDP, so in intelligent document processing, automating your document extraction classification tasks, then certainly any GenAI LLM-based approach is providing a lot of benefits. Now, we're not talking about all the challenges today around the controlling the quality and the hallucinations, because that can be controlled. We really talk about the benefits of themselves. So we're looking at accuracy. This approach can really has broad leaps or quantum leaps in the area, for example, of text recognition. So today, looking at gaps within OCR recognition or handwriting interpretation is certainly something that, with the power of AI, is really taking a lot of new use cases out there and opening it up for regions which before have been not catered for with traditional technology. It's bringing a lot of speed and scale, so it learns very quickly. So you from the way go with very few samples and a pre-trained model, there's a lot of speed that can be gained and a lot of scale in the sense of gaining the training data, gaining the insights from a high amount of documents. So speeding and scale is certainly something that's really coming out there. Classification, in the sense of recognizing what is a document all about, is certainly something that is taking another dimension with the AI-powered systems. So not only is it something that you can easily interpret difficult document sets, where in the past it would take several months to train somebody to understand those. Like, for example, in insurance, where you have 500 document types, nowadays an AI will be able to support that, will also provide reasoning for the classification, and therefore, again, train the human. So the human and AI interaction is getting more and more active and interactive, and the kind of accuracy that can be achieved in this kind of task like classification is really immense. And therefore, it brings higher automation rates. Of course, the better you go, the more you train, the interaction of a human and the AI is getting more and more effective. Then the automation rates go up and up and up, and controlling hallucinations and so on. If that's under control, it really creates much higher outputs than an IDP alone. And it can create very useful insights across documents that are previously caused some issues. I mean, we all know that with IDP, the more structured the document, the better automation rates, the better insights can be gained. And AI is really bringing that chance now that you can really look at really unstructured data. You can look at document sets that seemingly unrelated, and you have the AI find that connecting link. You can go into different use cases that really are now possible, where the unstructured data and the context within it can really be brought to its fullest to ensure that you can get the relevant data out of the documents of any kind, of any source, of any format, and bringing it into the systems that are then required to process the documents or data thereafter. So a lot of really potential out there, a lot of promise, and a lot of real good examples out there already where this is becoming reality and is being utilized in very meaningful ways. But then if you have a power of AI for an IDP system, then there are then the risks. And I touched on it before already to some extent, but just to really go over them once more. The one is the compliance part. So compliance is all about minimization of data, keeping data retention, and really complying to that use as needed approach. And of course, if you have data in an AI, that's one thing to be sure of, to ensure that the data is not being retained beyond the time and the usage that is intended for and required for. And this is certainly the most grayest area out there, and one that really needs to be watched, and but can be tackled also, which we talk about a little bit in the rest of our session. The customer information, many parts of that. So the one is, again, linked to the compliance piece. Am I allowed to expose it? Am I exposing something here which should not be seen or shouldn't be utilized outside of the use case that I'm dealing with? Am I dealing still with the use case? I'm allowed to deal with that data? And all that apart, there are in the IDP now tools nowadays some help process, I guess, in there to actually help, for example, mask such data. People with reduction, so your whitening, your blackening information is certainly one tool that is appearing in many IDP suites, but there is a risk associated with that, and that's the one of over and under reducting. So on average, the around 90 to 95% of data is being recognized by such systems. You're using things such as NLP, natural language processing, and OCR, of course, computer vision, and so on, to identify this data, then reduct it in some way or form. But the challenge really is real, to either not reduct enough, and therefore you're still exposing information, or you over reduct and therefore making the use of AI just pointless thereafter, because not enough data is actually left for an AI to do its job. So overall, customer information of the sense of utilization of it, exposing it, but also the tools available, there are some gaps remaining that are posing some risk of utilizing these tools today and really making the best out of the AI-powered IDP. And then, of course, as we touched a little bit already on that earlier, is that whole intellectual property piece. So what are you exposing? Are you exposing yourself in the sense of that, whatever you bring out there, if it's not truly kept within your private usage and the private LLM, if there is such a thing, then you could have a risk of your reputation being at risk if you expose information, of course, but at the same time of your competitive advantage being at risk if you expose things about yourself or about your partners you're dealing with that could be utilized in a competitive way against you, and the next person can learn from what you taught the AI. So exposure is real, and the risk of exposing in the wrong way is certainly something that needs to be taken care of. And before we go into like a practical example of how to minimize the risk, I want to talk about some of the strategies that can be taken to actually minimize that. So the one thing, of course, is to ensure by choosing the technology, choosing the partner you're working with, is to check have they done their homework. So do they have documented data protection practices, guarantees? Where is the data held? Are they complying? Do they have the relevant certifications? Now, relevant certifications, of course, can be again a gray area, because there's certifications constantly being added to, and as it's a growing minefield. But again, there's certain, of course, we all know the ISO regulations. There will be regulations related to or certification or compliance checks related to the new regulations coming out. So certainly it's becoming simpler, even if there's more certifications that people can be adhering to. But it comes all down to having a transparency in how documents are being utilized, how data is being utilized, retained, deleted. Is the data minimization principles being adhered to? And of course, then it comes all the way down to the tools that can be utilized and the services that can be utilized to prepare documents and data sets for the utilization of doing whatever analysis or process needs to be done with the AI. So the reduction of documents that I mentioned before that may have some downsides when it comes to some of the tools available today. Certainly, there are companies around, such as ScaleHub, that can help with actually a human in the loop service to bring that 90 to 95% up to near 100%, so that you can be sure you only reducted what you had to reduct, but you have reducted what you must reduct. And therefore, thereafter can expose such documents to AI, to a GenAI, to any kind of tool you want to utilize in order to thereafter do the processing. Because the challenge here is also, of course, ensuring that the way you expose the documents in the first instance, before it goes mostly in the cloud, where people would be dealing with the deep learning sets, or learning machines, and want to call it that. So where you really have the most benefit, you end up at some point or another potentially in the cloud, in a space where others are sharing the same kind of knowledge base, and therefore the reduction and techniques is something that a lot of people are working on. And I know Dave will talk a little bit about that in our use case that we are talking about. And of course, the whole topic of private LLMs in the true case is something that is growing, something certainly we get exposed to, where really you have a pre-trained model, but you have that real security that everything stays then behind your own firewall, whatever you teach it about your own organization. It does not come without a heavy cost. It is actually, there are hidden costs related to that, starting with the technology itself, but going all the way up into the infrastructure, even into the energy usage of it. But certainly it's the way to go if you have use cases where you can reap the real benefit of these new approaches and get the most out of AI. All that said and done, I think it would be good to bring that into life with some real life example. Dave, if you can maybe take over and share a little bit of an insight into some of the use cases we see, and maybe one particular example that we have been dealing with.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you, Suzanne. Yeah, based on the great turnout we have today for this webinar, I'm sure many of you have attended one of our ScaleHub webinars in the past. And so today we thought it might be helpful to dive into one of our client use cases to talk more about how we deliver AI and secure AI, if you will, for document processing. So the client in this case is a outsourced services provider of human resources. And so they'll do employee screenings and HR benefits and process and retain all the documentation. But their mission is to help large organizations accelerate and expedite candidate selection and onboarding. And so that comes with a massive lift of many documents for both the pre-screen, background checks, as well as all of the healthcare documents and insurance documents that you have when you onboard a new client. So they had been looking for some solutions in the marketplace when they reached out to ScaleHub, and their big need was using AI and the powers it delivers, and along with a very secure model where they could be assured that all the sensitive data on the HR documents and all the PII data would be secure and not shared with the LLMs or anyone else for that matter. So we're going to walk through briefly how we achieve this with this client using our ScaleHub platform. So we use a secure model, a secure SFTP to ingest all the documents from the client site, and then we run it through a field extraction process where we use snippeting. So the AI and the OCR combined will go through and select the correct data values off each one of these documents, whether it be a form or unstructured document. And then we take those snippets and we anonymize the data, apply redaction where required, and then we create micro tasks, which we share with the crowd, which is how we use the humans in the loop along with AI. So the crowd will look at each of the snippets. They'll do data entry on those, and we compare data entry from the crowd back to what the AI has captured in the first step. And this is the way we can assure compliance and our accuracy levels above 99% because we're comparing what the AI does to what the crowd delivers. And this is the secret sauce, if you will, that ScaleHub provides with both using AI and humans in the loop. It's not it happens on every document and every snippet, so it's part of the entire platform from start to finish. The next thing we have, which is a unique offer, I believe, is we call it exception handling. So if we find snippets that either are too difficult to read, or if it's handwritten, maybe it's cursive, or if we find documents that are inserted into the file transfer that don't belong there, we can send them to an exception queue. And this queue is where we actually have our client can log in, review the snippets and or the documents in this case, make a determination if they should be processed and how they should be processed. And this way, no document ever is left out from processing, and we can assure that all the documents that come in the front end of the process are delivered in the back end. And when we do deliver, we typically will provide this client in particular a JSON files, which they requested. So we also have other file types we can do as far as data files, but JSON's relatively popular for most customers, as they can take that file and parse it into whatever backend system data structure they need, in addition to a PDF. So many times the PDFs we deliver will have a classification, as Suzanne mentioned, by document type, or maybe employee name and document type in this particular case, so they can be archived and indexed in the backend system. And so that's a very compelling offer as well when we do this, and this is what the client needed for this particular use case. And finally, back to security. When we're done as a transaction system, we actually delete all that information from our system, usually within 7 to 14 days based on the client's preferences. And that way that data is gone for good, and no one can ever access it again. So just one more way that we ensure AI and data security and integrity with our solution. So in summary, for this client, we really we're running over 13 different fixed form types with 5 variations, running between 80 and 100,000 HR documents a year for them. The big benefit for them, based on where they were prior to using ScaleHub, was the processing time. So we really took them out from a 5-month process to down to 3 weeks, and that's not our time in particular. That's the entire end-to-end process that they use for taking care of their clients' constituents. Our turnaround time for this client is in 1.5 hours. So regardless of the day and the amount of documents we receive, anything that comes in via SFTP, we're returning the data and the document PDF back to them through the entire process in an hour and a half or less. We also are using snippeting and all the features of AI in the crowd, so that data privacy is ensured, again, which was key for them, and why we chose to share this use case with you today. And our data accuracy is at 99%. And for those of you who have been with us before, you know that we guarantee all these when we sign up you as a client, the privacy, the accuracy, and the turnaround time. Just a couple of different views here of how we call it the GenAI safety toolkit. But Suzanne mentioned redaction. So we think about expert redaction as a way that we can go in and identify very specific fields, like a social security number or a name or an address, or other information from a field, and we can redact that before it goes into an AI model for processing. We also have what we call synthetic redaction, and that's where we take, for example, a name on a medical document or a insurance document. We replace the person's real name with a John Doe or Jane Doe. What that does allows it to process properly within the context of an LLM, understanding that it's a person and the relationship of the person to the rest of the document, but we're not exposing any PII data in that case. So we get great results from the AI, generative AI models, but we're not exposing anything. So we use both types of redaction in our AI processing. And of course, then snippeting and microtasking we mentioned, but that way we can control exactly what information is taken from the documents and forms and sent to AI in the first case. So between using these two approaches, we have security well in hand with regard to your AI work and our customers' AI work. So kind of wrapping up here, I think the big number I like to share is that one in the lower right-hand corner, currently processing about 4.2 billion documents per year here at ScaleHub, hence the name Scale. We specialize in the higher volume, highly volatile, and highly complex documents, and also basic forms. So we can address pretty much any need you have. I'm having lots of conversations with customers now and prospects about their AI, just really early thoughts about what they could do with it, what they might like to do with it. So love to, Suzanne will as well, love to engage with you and just share some ideas and think through what you have on your mind and see if we can help. Thanks. Suzanne, back to you.
Yes, thank you, Dave. Yeah, this really completes the content of our webinar today, and would like to remind you that the Q&A is still open, and we've got a few questions already that are coming in, but there's still time for you to ask any questions or share any thoughts, and some of them maybe the risks that you've seen and the actions you've taken. But maybe let's look at some of those questions. And while I do that, I also want to put up our contact details so you can reach out to us, as Dave was saying, that you may want to have a chat about how we do things or some questions that you want to ask, which we may need some more time to cover. Dave, the one question I think relates quite nicely to what we talked about at the end. So it says, how can you be sure you're not over or under reducting? You want to take that?
Yeah, I think first of all, you can certainly, it's easy to do that over redaction. Under redacting, not so difficult because you're really just taking out the PII data from these documents, right? But if you take too much, then your results may not come back in the ideal way that you want them. But we would run proof of concepts and certainly work with our clients to basically decide which data we need to redact and which one optimally we could redact to make sure that it's the best data we send to the LLM along with the prompt to make sure the results are good. So really, once you get the key data off there, you could do some POCs and some testing to get the results back, and certainly use that synthetic redaction to also do verification of the AI is providing the results we're looking for.
Yeah, I would just like to add that again, here we're using our secret sauce by bringing humans in the loop where required. And this is, it would be too lengthy to describe that now, but we have a very unique and detailed approach to actually ensuring that the reduction is right, and that involves some human interacting with the AI in order to really have that security, because it's very important. And we get that question a lot about the reduction. So thank you for asking that. There's one question. It's I've got to summarize it. It talks about the custom LLMs or private LLMs. So this is more related to us, Dave, saying if someone builds or we build a custom LLM, do we, in a sense, or the customer, the partner, get to say in which technologies to connect to? Would they pick the tech together with us? How does it work?
Yeah, so I think the using API access to maybe other custom LLMs might be a topic we take offline with our technical leaders. But we certainly can do what we call custom LLMs. And so if a customer comes to us and they want to build an LLM very specific to their document processing needs and ensure that their data, both the data they would feed to the LLM and the API data, is very secure and stored and maintained only for their use and nobody else's. So we're not feeding, if you will, the more public LLMs. We have the ability to do that within our framework and our platform. So as far as being able to connect to any LLM out there with an API, we'd probably need to walk through that together with our leadership and understand really more of the requirements before we can answer that one. But we can certainly do the custom within the contents of, and do using both fine tuning of the LLMs and using RAG or retrieval augmented approaches as well.
And there's some more, but they're fairly deep technical questions, so we will take them offline. But there's one I think is a good one to wrap up with because it's a bit thought-provoking, and it's saying, you mentioned the energy consumption of AI. What do you mean by that? And maybe I can pick that up because it's something that opened my eyes earlier this year. So we have a customer we have been working with for many, many years, and they process around 100 million documents a year with traditional IDP, very high automation rates. And now we're looking into adding GenAI approaches to it and looking at the benefits of it. Benefits are certainly real. To get another few percentages out of automation. But then we looked at jointly also and did some calculation if we want to roll out the pilot in a true way. And prior or with a traditional IDP approach, for the 100 million documents, they approximately utilize the energy within their data center of 3 family homes, right? So I wish I had a poll here now because I wouldn't, I don't know if you can guess how much it is now just adding GenAI to it to get a few more percentages for work that IDP can normally do. It's actually 300. The equivalent of 300 family homes for the same volume. And this is something that certainly made me think in the sense of I think we will hear a lot more about that because the energy has to come from somewhere. There's a cost to it. And I think that also will shape where AI is going in the future and probably also where development is going in order to reduce that. But if you can leave me with one thought today, it's probably, think about your energy, but also think about the benefits of the AI, but mitigate the risks with the possibilities which are out there today and keep an eye on developments of the new regulations coming out and the possibilities that can be brought with tools or with managed services such as ours to actually help making AI usable today and securely usable. Thank you very much for your time.